Hello and welcome back to Tobacco Road and Abroad. My name's Gareth Parsons, joined by Aiden Moore, and we've got quite the week of bombshell news and announcements. We've got NCAA court rulings. We've got some College World Series upsets. We've got some UFC, obviously some NHL, NBA playoffs, CONCACAF Gold Cup, even some conference realignment teases.
Mm-hmm.
That it had to have been a glitch, but we'll address that soon. For now, we're gonna address the elephant in the room. We've talked about it on here before. The House versus NCAA. For those of you who don't know, the House is former Power Five swimmer Grant House. So had to go and ruin it for everybody. But, for those of you know, House versus NCAA passed at like 9:30 on what was it? Was it Sunday or Saturday? I think it was Sunday. It had to be Sunday. It passed on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, that means that schools can now pay athletes directly up to $20.8 million. And that also includes roster cuts. So a lot of people are up in arms about the roster cuts for various different reasons. I'm going to kind of come at it from a different angle than everyone's kind of been coming at it with. Obviously, my first and foremost problem with this thing is NIL was marketed to us as brand deals. And I know naturally that was going to lead to universities setting up a third party thing to pay their athletes directly, essentially. You know what I'm saying? That was a natural progression, but how I thought about that is it's kind of like, how there are some like chill parents where like they're okay with their kids sneaking out, but they want them to be sneaky about it. And like if they get caught, they get in trouble. But as long as they don't catch their kids, they don't care that their kids are sneaking out, like those type of parents.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of saw this third party thing.
Yeah.
Where if you got caught with your hands in the cookie jar, okay. But like we all kind of saw that coming, like the NIL collectives. We saw that coming.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with brand deals, like that's what it's supposed to be. It's literally name, image, and likeness. In my opinion, like, yes, do I think athletes should be getting paid? I'm still kind of up in the air about that. Like being paid from the schools, absolutely not. Here's my take on that. 90% of athletes that are probably, this isn't an exact number, like I'm not going to do like incisive research on this, but I'd say the majority of athletes who are getting a decent NIL bag. I'm not talking like your field hockey players that get free Honey Stinger protein bars for posting about it once on Instagram, or like, the swimmers who posted, oh, I like, Arizona iced tea, and they get a free case of it for posting it on their Instagram or Facebook story once a month. I'm not talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the average person that's going to get decent NIL bag. Your payment is free schooling from the university. I'm not talking about your NIL brand deals from like Nike and stuff like that, where you're getting like millions of dollars from like when Sam Howell and Drake May were getting millions of dollars from Bojangles. I don't care. Get your bag. You are North Carolina boys. Get your bag from a North Carolina
Sam
band.
Howell like that? Sam Howell was before NIL.
I might just be mixing him up with Drake May or another basketball player, but you get what I'm saying. North Carolina boy, benefit from a heavily North Carolina brand. I don't care. Get your bag from that. That's awesome. Like, represent your state well.
Mm-hmm.
No issues there. Or, Jalen Milroe getting like some sort of deal where he appears on an all-state commercial with Nick Saban. Okay. You're the face of college football. You're getting paid by a company.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to getting paid directly by the school, you're already getting a free education.
Mm-hmm.
You are already getting something of monetary value. And I know there's like, I've seen it on like TikTok and social media, like them wailing, oh, I deserve to be paid. Isn't payment an exchange of monetary value? You are getting, college educations now are getting up into like the $250,000 to $500,000 range by the time all your interest sets in with your loans. For some people, obviously you've got the kids who've got academic scholarships, financial aid, but I'm talking like the average person, you're getting up there where like you're paying almost with interest $500,000 for your college education. I'm sorry, you're already getting a free education. I don't think some of these, and this isn't just one particular player. This is just a generalization to make a point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, Joe Schmo, who's dropping crucial third down passes and riding the bench and having a poor attitude about it, deserves money on top of the free $500,000 he's getting. He's basically getting gifted a college degree where if he doesn't pan out in the NFL, he gets a stamp of approval saying he can get a job. I'm not saying people don't deserve jobs. I'm just saying they are already basically getting a degree for free with very little work, and they're now getting money on top of that directly from the school. And like I said, I'm not talking about brand deals. Make your bag on that. Name, image, and likeness. All right.
Mm-hmm.
What part of name, image, and likeness is direct payment from a school? Like, where in there do people parse that out? Like, I'm glad athletes are getting, their fair share. Like, obviously, issues with the NCAA video games, students weren't being, paid for that. Gotcha. Box checked. Get your bag for that, $600 in a copy of the game. Check. But, like, we're getting to a point where this is, in my opinion, getting excessive. There's going to be a bubble, and it's going to pop. But what I'm here to talk about is the roster cuts that are going to be imbued to make this happen. We've talked about it on here before where there's been pushback and the numbers have been tweaked a little. But there's certain sports where this is still not the case. Certain track sports are being cut to a level at which they're not sure if they're going to have enough runners to safely run their events. That is a problem.
Yeah.
We are, at this point, sacrificing safety. Point number one. Point number two. We kind of talked about it. I gave the swimming example a few months ago. I'm not going to go back and redo the math, but you are displacing hundreds of athletes in any sport, any given sport. We talked about it with swimming, how there's varying roster sizes. Teams like NC State, LSU have teams of hundreds of kids. You are displacing hundreds of kids at the top. You are displacing an average of 6 kids in like the mid-major. This is going to have a trickle-down effect. There are going to be kids who have, for all intents and purposes, and I know the whole point of sports is to get better. You could probably, I'd say probably an average mid-major swimmer. You could probably send me back 100 years and I'd win the majority. Any of us would win the majority of the events at, say the 1920 whatever Olympics in swimming. The whole point of a sport is that it gets better. I'm not saying that yes, in the long run, is this going to make swimming more competitive and other sports more competitive? And no, I'm not trying to be, hold the sport back. That's not the point of this. I'm not complaining that swimming is going to get harder, because I like that swimming's getting more competitive. And because it's more competitive, it's becoming more marketable to people, who necessarily aren't into swimming as much. The times they're getting faster to the point where swimming's looking fast on TV now. Like, that was not something I watched growing up, like thinking, oh my God, like, I'd see the times and be like, that's fast, like, comparing it to my own, but it wouldn't look fast on the screen. It's getting to the point where swimming's looking fast on the screen. And I like that. I like that a lot. But back to the displacing athletes, you are taking people who are deserving of a Division I, Division II, Division III spot and displacing them, because those Power 5 swimmers, they're going to go down to mid-major. Those mid-major swimmers, who they may not be the most talented, but like you brought up, they're crazy about the sport. It's a damn shame that we cannot. Now, this could just be slippery slope and doom and gloom, and certain sports like swimming could take protective measures. I'm not saying that that's off the table. I'm just saying that's not going to happen immediately. There's going to be a mass displacement. There's going to be a lot of refugee athletes, if you will, left out. I don't think that's right. Now, I know this certain judge is working on clauses that would protect kids with current roster spots, which step in the right direction. That is a step in the right direction. Like, they're grandfathered in. I like that. I'm still not a fan of the fact that there's going to be this drastic jump in, like, who can swim in college and who can't. This is more designed for, the juniors and the sophomores who are starting their college search who thought they could swim in college, and all of a sudden that's gone. I'm not talking about the seniors because the judge who made this decision is trying to, put safeguards in. The seniors who just committed, they're not losing their spot. They're doing stuff with the roster cuts where, it's not that it won't take effect, but it's you can't all of a sudden now rescind offers you've given out. They're giving you the stamp of approval. It's okay if you're over budget for the next few years because these people were already committed. But I'm talking about those juniors and seniors who they've been talking to colleges. And I know some colleges, like my alma mater, already saw this come up on the horizon. They saw this hit the house, hit the courts, and we're gonna downsize our team so we don't have to, screw kids out of an experience. We're gonna let them go find something else so they can go ahead and reserve their spot. We're gonna let them and I applaud I'm not going to bring up my alma mater and who they are, but I'm going to applaud my former coach for that. I think he had an ability to see where the sport was going better than most coaches. He's been in the game a long time. He's been, started some of the program I swim for wasn't the greatest in the world. Obviously mid-major, we're going to struggle with recruiting and funding. But prior to that, he has started and been a part of some of the most successful swim programs in the United States. He started a program at a service academy that is now a household name when it comes to college swimming. He helped bring a certain Catholic school in the Midwest to national dominance. Not only regional dominance, but to national dominance. He didn't get them into a power conference, but he helped them get to a point where they got into a power conference and have now gotten into an even faster power conference. I think you know what school I'm referencing.
Great.
We're not going to say it. No, it's blue and gold. We're not going to. But that's not the point. What I'm saying is you've got these juniors and seniors who, and I know, you've got the, whole keyboard warriors going boo who, they didn't deserve to swim because, they couldn't hack it just because, it got a little faster. No, that's not what I'm saying. There are hundreds of athletes being displaced, and this isn't just swimming. You've got juniors and sophomores thinking they could play in college, and now they can't. And I know that for everyone who doesn't play in college, everyone has this realization sooner or later, and it's devastating. But these are kids who were told, who've been talking to coaches, some coaches could have foreseen this and told them to look elsewhere, and good on them. But that's not the case for everyone. There's going to be kids who've been told they're good enough to play. They've had coaches reaching out telling them that, and now all of a sudden that's gone. I don't think that's right, just because some whiny-ass SEC receiver thinks he deserves more than he does. Some guy who's going to be fucking dropping balls. And I'm not saying they don't deserve to be paid. Yes, I think, these pay them. With brand deals and collectives. You don't need to cannibalize the rest of college athletics to pander to the needs of, and I will say it's the SEC and Big Ten. I'm not saying the ACC and Big 12 don't have their parts, but why are we okay? And second of all, why are we pandering to these schools? They're already talking about leaving the NCAA. Why are we bending our will to the fucking Big Ten and SEC, cannibalizing 98% of other college sports?
Because they have the money.
But they don't even want to be here.
Yeah, so you make that's how negotiations work. You make it so that people want. Do you really think the NCAA is going to let go their biggest moneymaker? No, they're going to make it so that their biggest moneymaker is just happy enough to stay. That's how negotiations work, Gareth.
Here's my point, and here's where things are going to come into play. The NCAA is supposed to be amateur, right?
In theory, yes.
In theory, yes. And I'm okay with brand deals. Yes, amateurs I feel like can make brand deals. I mean, yes. That's fine with me.
Yes.
And I know everyone's like, "Oh, get with the times, old man. Get with the times." This is just the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
But should it be? Should this new NIL ruling pull the NCAA president out of bankruptcy?
Yeah, that's a little sketchy.
Now, the article was a little, I'm not sure if it's him or the NCAA, but with how money hungry the NCAA is and how many rules and regulations and, settlements they've won against former athletes, you'd think they'd have the money. Where's that money going? Where's that money going? Now that schools are paying the athletes, or why now that even before that, collectives are paying the athletes. Schools are paying for the kids' scholarships. Where is this money going? For all this money they supposedly make off the men's NCAA tournament, how the fuck were they on the verge of bankruptcy? How the fuck was the NCAA on the verge of bankruptcy? I want to know. I've already called him out on here several times. Not that he'll ever see this. How the fuck do you mismanage, Charlie Baker? How the fuck do you mismanage a multi-billion-dollar industry to the point you almost bankrupt a over century-old institution? How the fuck do you manage that? If I even messed up a fraction of that amount, I wouldn't have a job. And I actually know what I'm talking about when it comes to my field of work, unlike Charlie Baker. I actually have success stories. You know who doesn't? Charlie Baker. The NCAA has tanked under his tenure. I cannot name one good thing he's done for it. One of his biggest blunders, obviously, his handling of COVID pisses me the fuck off. Now, is it because Trevor Lawrence got to play in the bowl game? Meanwhile, I had to sit out a month and a half? Sure. You could say there's personal reasons why
Trevor Lawrence was at least able to sit out against Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame was able to win with DJ Uiagalelei being the
Trevor
quarterback.
Lawrence had to sit out a week, but I had to sit out against Bryant and 3 other meets my freshman year. I wasn't even allowed to practice. But Trevor Lawrence could practice with a mask on. I was in a pool with made of literal disinfectant. But because fucking Samson's arm was kissed by God's mouth himself.
Trevor Lawrence was out for 2 weeks. Second week being the game against Notre Dame, he tested negative for COVID and was still sat, and that is a very legit win for Notre Dame, might I add.
All I'm saying is, at what point does Charlie Baker get investigated? Because I feel like for him, scandal. I feel like is a little bit of a harsh word, but there's been several instances in which he's made very, very questionable decisions when it comes to COVID, funding, how he had that whole women's tournament set up. What year was that? 2022.
Mm-hmm.
How he handled that women's NCAA tournament. Like, first of all, outside of the Trevor Lawrence thing, I'm not saying he should be fired for that. Like, I'm a mere mid-major college swimmer. I realize that that's just more of a personal vendetta. Number one, 2021 College World Series. NC State was following COVID protocol, had 2 guys test positive who were already in quarantine. Send them home. Hadn't had contact with anyone in a week. Send them home. Okay, that's strike 1. Strike 2, when we were in the age of canceling people and that women's tournament thing came out, how was his ass not the first one on the chopping block? Oh, yes, and I get there are certain inequalities still in men's and women's sports. And I know Title IX hasn't fully made up for all of those. Mm-hmm. I'm aware. I'm well aware, and I acknowledge that. But how is his ass not the first one on the chopping block? They went after male athletes and not, the fucking president of the NCAA who sets this shit up. And then you've got this. And I know it's House versus the NCAA. And because it's legal, he has to let this pass. I'm aware of that. Now, am I fully aware of the full legal ramifications of, how the NCAA being sued has now saved them from bankruptcy. That just doesn't sound correct to me. Like, something is not adding up. You know, I could just be hating, Aiden, but this is starting to sound a lot like a money laundering scheme. You know, you're getting sued and that somehow saves you from bankruptcy.
Yeah, that's a little sketchy.
Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of different layers to this that I want to also kind of break into, because I want to start off by saying there's a lot that I agree with Gareth here, but there's also some things that I'm going to have to say I do disagree with you on. And I want to preface this by saying, starting off, I have been a big homer for NIL. There are videos on the internet, somewhere in the ether, of me on a podcast with Gareth and our good friend Andrew Baxley. It was the AA podcast. Gareth was a guest in that one, and I believe it was 2019, 2018, before NIL. I said
2019. I think I just committed to Providence when we did that one.
You just permit you. Once again, you slipped.
Whoops. Oh, well, we can just say it now. I didn't say anything bad.
Yeah. I understand what you're trying to do. Just saying you slipped again. But in that podcast, like before NIL, I was the only one on that podcast saying that I believe that college athletes should be getting some monetary like reward for their play. I have been a very liberal homer when it comes to NIL. And there's some things with Gareth saying about this case that I do disagree with him on. Like I've heard stories before, and like the horror stories of like the football player who scores the winning touchdown and just like goes home, like goes to sleep hungry that night because like his coach can't get him Taco Bell or something like that. Like, I think that is pretty bad, and it should not happen if you are making money for an industry.
Yeah.
But the lines for me are very blurred. Am I necessarily against colleges paying athletes? Like, in some cases, I'm for it. Some cases, I'm against it. I don't want athletes going to bed hungry. And I understand there's a lot of athletes who come from very impoverished backgrounds, and they just don't have like the luxuries that some other athletes might have. Like the walk-on probably has a like better gig, like family wise, like parents probably paying for college, already has like a good job lined up, probably like second, third generation college student, as opposed to like maybe the student athlete whose only shot at college, like from where he grew up, where he or she grew up, was going through sports. Like,
Yeah.
we got to understand these like differences. And even though maybe that athlete might be a bench rider, I still think there should be ways to make money off of it. And it's just a matter of like, how is this going to play out and how does this affect other sports? I I really liked the early days of NIL where it was like, okay, sign on to like your local, do some advertisement for your local AC HVAC company, and you get a bag from that. That's fun. That's good. I like that. Even like some of the bigger deals, doing deals with Gatorade, I think that's very well warranted. If you are one of the biggest college athletes and you're able to strike a deal with Gatorade, do a commercial, do it. Like, I like that. And even like, I'll even let like some of like the NIL fund collectives from like these third parties and alumni. I think that's also like kind of good, but like we're getting into some murky waters. Like Alabama is going to have a better NIL pool than McNeese State. or McNeese University now. Like, I guess that's what they're going by. Like, that's just the fact. But like, you know, markets being what they are, okay, fine. But there's just so many like nuances that I just want to bring into this fold. Like, I think if you are selling jerseys for your university, the university should be paying you in that case. Like, if
Yeah,
you're
no, I agree with that.
if like that's a case where I agree, the university, no third party, university should be paying the athlete there.
Absolutely,
And
I
then
agree with that.
and that's what I think this case is also kind of like dealing
Because
with,
that's
because in that case the university is directly paying the athlete, and I think that's fair. If your jersey, if you're wearing number 4 and the number 4 jersey is just selling off the charts, okay, we know who that is. We know
yeah.
why that's happening. Like, if the like I think back in like 2012, if the Johnny Manziel number 2, literally last name Manziel on the back, number 2 is selling, he's not seeing a dime of it, that's kind of weird. I think that's
Oh, I
weird.
agree.
That's
Because that's
weird.
name, image, and likeness.
That is literally name, image, and likeness. And I kind of agree with what you said about like a college degree being like your monetary gain, because you're getting that out of it. Some people would agree, some people would disagree. Some people say, oh, the college degree is just a means of like, I'm not here to play school, I'm here to play. Well, in that case, like, maybe you should probably be good enough to get like some NIL funds in that case. Like, I don't know. There's just so many different layers of complexity. I just want to say I don't like the outcome of affecting some of the smaller sports. I want to say that I do understand why it has come to this, but I think we, as fans and just the system as a whole, is adjusting a major past wrong with a major future wrong. Like, we're going from 0 to 100. Like, and there's no in between. And it's going to take some smarter minds than my own, and I'll keep on thinking and like looking in, doing research to figure out what the best system is. But right now, at least I want to say, at least we're not at 0. Like, I'm a
Yeah.
glass half full guy. Hey, at least we're not at 0, where like in 2006, like, we had athletes going to bed, allegedly, from like what I've heard from like 60 Minutes interviews and like CBS and all that stuff. Athletes going to bed hungry after like playing in like Tennessee versus Alabama. I think that's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
don't like
messed.
that. Yeah,
I think
that's bad.
that's kind of messed up. Like, how do we get from the point of uh, like going to a point where like, oh, we can't like give Taco Bell to these players because that's a recruiting violation, and the NCAA is going to crack down on us, to basically like, if the Saudis wanted to, they could probably buy a college football team at this point. I'm surprised they
Yeah.
haven't done it yet. Like, how do we get from here to here? Obviously, I think players should be compensated. Like,
I agree.
if they're making money, they should be compensated. And it's always weird for me in particular, because I'm just a fan at the end of the day. I'm a fan who went to a school, who has other schools that I like to watch. I'm a fan at the end of the day. I feel like I have much less room to speak when it comes to people like you, Gareth, because you've at least played D1 sports. Or even when I was having this conversation with Andrew in yesteryear, when he was like going to school and going to play basketball. I'm always going to be on the side of the athlete, because like, I don't want these horror stories going out.
Yeah, no, that makes
And
sense.
I like I don't I like I feel uncomfortable if I'm promoting a product that is going to basically like treat their athletes like garbage. I don't like that. That's not good
Yeah,
in
no,
my
that's not
mind.
good.
That's not good. We got to find a way to like
Happy
mature
medium.
this. Yeah, we need to mature this a little bit more because we're going from like college athletes can be treated like garbage, which is not okay, to college athletes are treated like God now. And we got to give them every bit of money in the world. And we got to pay them even more than the coaches. Now, granted, some athletes should be getting paid more than coaches because some coaches are just absolutely garbage and you're being saved by the fact that you recruited a guy. And
Yeah.
if coaches can have multi-million dollar contracts, it's hard for me to find like a logical reason to say, no, man, you can also have multi-millions of dollars because your coach has millions of dollars. And like I don't know, like, yeah, you're the one that basically saved this team, but your coach has to get paid more. I'm all for what's the right thing. And we got to find
Yeah.
ways to like maybe incorporate contracts, like put clauses. If we're going to treat these adults, now they're most of them 18 years old, they're adults. We need to adultify this situation and try to put like make responsible monetary policies that benefit both the athletes, the institutions, and the institution of college sports as a whole. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like those stories either of them going to bed hungry. I think coaches should be able to buy them a meal if they can. Like, and I think that's been rectified for the most part because there was like, and I know I've
Yeah.
already name dropped the school and you're gonna know who the coach is, but like there were times where like if someone on the team needed something dearly, like the coach would take care of it because he's like, and this is a side of college athletics you don't see. And I know this may be different for sports because I know certain sports you have like hundreds of kids on a team, you know, when it comes to football, but like some of these coaches see these like, you know, most Division One sports teams are smaller than 60 kids. Like it is an anomaly. That's like the sport I did was as big as it was. But even then, like how I've heard coaches and even my friends who are on different teams talk about it, it's like these coaches see you guys as almost like they're kids.
Yeah.
And like it is, and with those horror stories, it's almost hard to like ask these people who, you know, a lot of times when, you know, when you play college sports, you are ending up at schools that are like very far away from home. And these parents, like, and yes, they are adults, but like mentally, you know, these people aren't adults for another 5-6 years,
Yeah.
mentally and developmentally speaking. Yes, legally they're adults, but you are sending like these parents are putting the trust in essentially this coach. So like, you know, that coach is the reason some of these kids are coming, you know, 2, 3, 4, 500, 6, sometimes even 700 to 1,000 plus miles to these schools. And if the coach is not even the coach is, you know, kind of, you know, not I don't want to say a promise because, you know, there's not an agreement that they take care of them, but like, you know, if you're the reason someone's halfway across the country and they're going hungry, that's not a good look. Or like they need something and you're not able to provide for it, whether it be because of a rule or because they don't want to. That's not a good look.
Yeah.
And I know in these smaller sports, like these smaller, you know, less, you know, monetary sports, the team atmosphere is a little more intimate. Like obviously for swimming, you know. And I know that obviously on big football teams, there's going to be friends. You're going to have close friends, and they're going to be like your brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And like, especially with these smaller teams, it's like your family. Like you see them as family. And it's if you're not able to take care of them, that's just not good. So I don't think when I say I don't think schools should be able to play players directly, I'm talking more along the lines of like, you know, millions of dollars. I'm not talking now if, you know, their jersey, like, you know, you came up with the example of, you know, oh, the number 4 jersey for the Notre Dame running backs. Like, you know, everyone wants whoever number 4 is. And you know who number 4 is, like, you know, he should be getting a cut of that.
Yeah.
And like, I think schools are already kind of doing that because Providence, and I know I said it again, but I'm just going to use it because, you know, I mean, I haven't really said anything bad about my alma mater, and I don't plan to, and I don't really have anything bad to say on here. But like, the only reason I censored it in the last episode is because there were some stories that probably shouldn't have gotten out there where my school had experiences with certain schools in a certain conference that I didn't want getting out that it came from that school.
Yeah.
But there are certain things where like Providence had this NIL thing set up where you could buy jerseys and T-shirts. Even for swimmers, you could buy swim T-shirts and swim caps with the swimmer's name on it, and they'd get a cut of it. Now, this could have been through a third-party collective, but it seemed pretty direct from the school. Like the checks would come from you'd get the check delivered to you by someone from the school. Now, does that mean it was coming from the school? Not necessarily, and this could be just a misinterpretation I had. But like you and I were talking about with these NIL collectives, the lines are a little blurred because I know certain people involved with certain collectives at different schools, like who I've met through, my fortune. Like I've had the privilege of getting to know a lot of wonderful people through some of the sports media opportunities I've had, and I'm grateful for that. And out of respect, I won't mention names of schools, but I know certain people and certain, at NIL collectives, and they're technically classified as employees of the school. So this is, like you said, this is where it gets a really kind of murky water, is that these people who work for the collective are paid by the school. And I get what you're saying. Like, I'm okay with the collective. Like, it's kind of like, it's that analogy I gave where it's like, the parents who, if they catch their kids sneaking out, they're mad. But if they know their kid's sneaking out but don't catch them, and it's kind of like a don't see, like, I don't see it, it's not going on. Or think about it like this, you're hanging out with, say for whatever reason, you're dating someone and they've got chill parents and they've got like the whole whatever we don't hear, we don't know what's going on policy. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like ultimately it was going to come to this. And I think ultimately for NIL to mature, I think we may just have to live with the collective thing. Like that may just have to become a fact of life. And it can be kind of like like the whole situation where like, coaches are paying players through McDonald's bags. And it's like, what's going on. It's not like, it's against the rules, but I wouldn't say it's anything like, super shady. But sorry if that didn't make any sense. I just kind of wanted to go off there because we'd already kind of covered this in depth with statistics, but this was just more of our like reaction. Like, I didn't think this was going to pass for this season, especially with the fact that college football, like summer camp starting.
Yeah.
Like, we are 2 months away from the first game. And like, I know someone who could be involved in this, and I might ask him a few questions. I won't obviously name drop them if they don't want their name being out here, but I have someone who could be, because of how this came about and the kind of almost the nuclear bomb type of way this, happened. I may ask them a few questions. I might have some more on this next episode because I know we need to get going on some other stuff, but I'll tell you who it is, Aiden, in the break. And I have an idea for how this is going to work. Okay. And this individual may be okay with having their name out there. They may not, but it's, another person who I've been fortunate enough to meet through certain avenues or another. So, anything else you want to add to tonight? And like I said, I'm not against, like, I agree more with Aiden than what it sounds like. I'm just more or less pissed off with the NCAA president for like, not just this, but what other stuff he's allowed. And I know Charlie Baker could not necessarily have, stopped this initial ruling with like there's nothing he could do now for that ruling, but there was measures he could have taken. Okay, that's the point I want to get across. There is measures Charlie Baker could have taken for this NIL to have been explored better. I feel like this was a big fumble on his part. And the fact that he is being saved from bankruptcy by being sued. Now, that could just be a misunderstanding on our part, but we both read the same article. You and I both saw that article. That was setting off alarm. Like, you're thinking about going into law school. I asked my dad about it. My dad, who like his whole thing is like, contract law and stuff like that. It didn't make sense to him either. Now, this could just be that he was reading it, quickly just because he had other stuff going on. And like you and I saw that article and it makes no sense. And upon further reading, we can make more sense of it. We'll talk about that next week. But like, my main point is there is things he could have done. Charlie Baker could have done. And I know, being NCAA president's a tough job, but you think if NIL has kind of been the defining moment of your tenure, like this has been the big thing that's happened while you've been NCAA president, you would have think he would have been a little more on top of this than he was. Because it kind of feels like when someone's got a problem in their life and they kind of just wait for that problem to become bad enough to deal with it. I kind of feel like this is what's been happening.
Yeah.
With Charlie Baker in this scenario. Like I'm not saying, Aiden and I aren't saying we have all the answers, but we feel like this could have been handled better. It should not have gotten to this point. Now, I will say, I know there's going to be all sorts of and I'm not saying there are certain people in this lawsuit who are going to get retroactive NIL payments who absolutely deserved it. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is a class action lawsuit and certain people are getting paid. And I agree with that. Now, do I agree with the front runner of this, lawsuit? No, not necessarily. I don't think Grant House should be the one talking because in him doing this, he has directly harmed his own sport. He has directly killed his own sport. And I know no matter how much he posts on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram saying, I'm not the enemy. The enemy is the NCAA for not paying us. You know damn well that's not how the funding's going to work. This new funding is going to come from your sport grant. What do you want to hit next? College World Series?
Anyway, let's talk about College World Series. Wild weekend for the college baseball world. The Omaha brackets have been set, and this weekend we will see the play of Bracket 1 and Bracket 2 in a double elimination tournament for each respective bracket. But before that, let's go over Super Regionals weekend and just go over some of the highlights of what went down this past weekend. I'm going to start off with the elephant in the room. Unfortunately, the Chapel Hill Super Regional did not end in UNC's favor. UNC started off game one absolutely on fire, 18-2. I saw this and I was like, wow, UNC would really have to screw up to blow this. And game two went in Arizona's favor, and I was like, you know what? Okay, like we've been prone to slip up. Like in the regionals, we slipped up a game, but hey, like getting back on the elimination game, everything should be good to go. Game two, UNC lost 10-8, and then in game three, UNC lost to Arizona 4-3 in an absolute collapse in the final innings. The pitching game for UNC just was not there, and it really kind of showed in the eighth inning. UNC let up 3 runs, and that pretty much sealed the game right there. UNC was up 3-1 for the majority of the game and was cruising, but that just eighth inning collapse really kind of just solidified everything and put Arizona into Omaha. And I just got to say, this is a very surprising upset, in my opinion. I heard some people saying, like, if we take out, like, maybe one other upset, this is one of the most surprising upsets from the weekend that we're not talking about, because UNC, for the longest time, was just considered to be, like, the top team, championship contenders, like, almost guaranteed spot in Omaha, and just did not turn out in the favor for the Tar Heels. And I just got to say, this season, like, it was a great season, but I can't help but feel like there's just a sour taste in my mouth after this, because I'm not going to lie, we were so close, but it's just another year of would-have, could-have, should-haves, and Tar Heels are missing out on Omaha once again, and just a tough run for the Heels. But other than that, there are a bunch of other surprising super regional results. Gareth, would you like to hop into one that really stuck out to you?
One that really kind of stuck out to me, and I know everyone can look back and say this about anything, that, I had Auburn winning this regional, but I was really, really leaning towards having Coastal Carolina after how I saw their games against Georgia went. But Coastal Carolina sweeping Auburn.
Absolutely crazy.
That was just, it was absolutely crazy. It was back and forth. Game 1, Coastal Carolina was taking it to Auburn. And then they had a pause. There was a little bit of rain. And then right out the gate in the very first inning, so they were down, I think they were down 6-3. The very first inning, just right out of, fourth inning was the stoppage. Fifth inning, right out of the rain delay. First pitch was a homer, cut the lead to 3, and then from there, Auburn clawed their way back in. But then finally, in the top of the 10th, Bodine homered to give Coastal Carolina the win in extras. Then from there on Saturday, it was just kind of more of the same. Auburn jumped out to an early lead. Then Coastal Carolina in the final innings was able to get some runs over via some less than stellar defense from Auburn, which included a fielding error at first base, and then a hit by pitch with the bases loaded. So Auburn obviously did not have the game they wanted to have on that day, particularly in that elimination game for them. But I will say neither team on that second day played particularly well. Coastal Carolina leaving 13 runners stranded. Same thing with Auburn leaving 11 runners stranded. 3 of those were a free pass. That's not necessarily something you want to do, especially on those free passes. You want to get those guys home, and that's not something Auburn could do at all. Auburn several times had runners in very dangerous and not only in scoring position, but in very dangerous scoring positions, but were just not able to, they weren't able to just get it home, get over that finish line. And that ultimately is the story for a lot of teams in Omaha, or not Omaha, a lot of teams in the NCAA tournament. Teams that make the tournament are already very good at getting people on base. What ultimately separates those teams that make it to the super regional and then on to Omaha is teams' abilities to get those runs in. I saw this, this was something I saw said by, there's an influencer on TikTok. His name it's called Chips Performance. He is a former college and MLB pitcher. And he was a pitcher who was expected to play both ways. So he talks about hitting as well. And he talks about the thing about the College World Series. He's like, people always get super stressed when their pitcher gets into a jam. But he's like, it's the College World Series. He's like, it's the best of the best. They've got metal bats. He's like, the best teams in the College World Series are good at getting out of jams. And that's what I saw here with Coastal Carolina. Their pitchers or pitching staff was able to get out of jam after jam in this series. And that's how you know kind of who's the best in college baseball. It's not, do they give up a lot of bases? It's what do they do when the opposing team gets people on base? How are they able to get out of it? Not just are they able to not give up runs, but, when the bases are loaded, it's the difference of, they give up only 1 run when the bases are loaded versus 7. They're able to stem. They're not just able to stop the bleeding, but when they do bleed, they're able to stem it and slow it down. That's the difference between good teams and great teams, the difference between making it to Omaha and not making it to Omaha. So that's all I'll say about that series.
Yeah. Keeping in line with some SEC action, I want to talk about the Fayetteville Super Regional because I'm really impressed with this Arkansas team. And game 2, obvious kind of blowout for Arkansas. Not too much to write home about, but that game 1, I saw something special in Arkansas. And a lot of people might kind of overlook it, but I feel like Arkansas was able to clutch up in moments where things were like maybe starting to swing in Tennessee's favor. 5th inning, Tennessee is able to get on top, get 2 runs. It's now 2-1. Arkansas responds back, scoring 2 runs of their own. They're back on top now. And that leads the game to eventually in the 6th inning, Arkansas gets another run. Arkansas is up 4-2. But that 9th inning, things were starting to get a little bit hairy, but Arkansas was able to keep it at bay. In the ninth inning, Arkansas lets up a homer to Fisher. And at this moment, when I was kind of keeping my eyes on the game, I was like, how is Arkansas going to respond to this? Granted, they have one out already, but Tennessee looks like they're starting to get a little bit of life into them now. But with some solid fielding play and pitching play, they were able to get a ground out and strike out the final two Tennessee batters and bring it into game two up one. I feel like that's something that I really like about this Arkansas team, being able to win big in moments where they're blowing teams out, but also being able to keep composure in these hairy moments. When the Tennessee came out with 2 runs, Arkansas says, "All right, I'll do the same. Next inning, I might even just one up it, so we're in a position to win." Arkansas finds themselves in the best positions, and when things start to get hairy, they're able to calm the nerves down. As Gareth was saying, homers are going to happen, especially in college baseball with like aluminum bats. Like, you're liable to get a home run any inning, really. Like, it's never like you're never out in college baseball, in my opinion. But Arkansas is just one of those teams that I'm keeping my eye on. And I think they have something special to them.
I agree. And this is a stark difference from what we've seen from past Arkansas teams that have had a tendency to kind of choke in the super regional. Mm-hmm. And then I don't just mean like that 2021 super regional where they beat NC State like 34-2 and then proceeded to lose the next 2 games. Like this is something that's happened on several occasions, but there's just something different about this Arkansas team. They can finish games. They can win games in a multitude of manners. Like, they're good in close games. They're good in blowouts. Like you said, they're able to keep composure. They can get it done when it matters most. Moving on, we've got the Corvallis Regional. This was one where Aiden and I had disagreed on what we thought was going to happen. In this one, it looked for a while like Florida State may come out on top, but Florida State had a couple choke jobs here in this regional. They started off with just an absolute fucking collapse in the bottom of the ninth, giving up 3 runs. They were down. They were up 4-2, and it was no bueno. I mean, let's take a look at this bottom of the ninth inning. They had them, if I'm not mistaken, I think they had them down to 2 outs, and then Weber doubled the center. They had a man on second, 2 outs, and then they walked a guy, single that didn't score anyone, that moved him over. And then oh my Lord, they tied the game on a wild pitch. I forgot about that. They tied the game on a wild pitch. And then from there, obviously they gave up, the game-winning walk-off, but they had the chance to bounce back the next day, and Florida State did. They won 3-1. It was a nice showing by both teams. I mean, obviously, that wasn't the bats we're used to seeing Florida State have. We're not used to seeing Florida State getting walked in for runs. We're seeing Florida State hitting almost a West Coast, not like a West Coast style of baseball. They're pretty well-rounded, but they've got a little bit bigger bats, and so it came to a rubber match on Sunday. In an absolute almost football game, Oregon State jumped out to a 13-4 lead. From there, it was just kind of out of reach. Florida State kind of came back. Their bats kind of started to hit. They were able to score 6 runs, but that wouldn't be enough. Being down basically 10 runs, I will say, it's not unheard of when teams come back, but it's incredibly unlikely. Like I've said on here before, with metal bats, like my dad's talked about it growing up. He's like, with metal bats, particularly in college, he's like, your lead usually isn't safe unless it's like 10 or more. Because Aiden and I talked about this before coming on the air. With metal bats, sometimes that's the difference between a foul tip and a going yard. Like, or a foul tip and a double. Like, there's a big difference there just because the sweet spot on the bat's bigger and you get a little bit more bounce out of it. Like I said, Florida State is out. Florida State's one of those teams where they just maul a bunch of really good teams, and then they inexplicably drop a series out of nowhere. And I know that happens for everyone, but like most teams, they inexplicably drop a game or two, not like entire series. That's just something that's like, while I did predict Oregon State to win this, I did not predict Oregon State to win this in the manner that they did, winning off a wild pitch and then winning off of essentially shutting down a late Florida State comeback. That's not what I thought was going to happen. I thought it was going to be very similar to, like, I thought they were going to be shootouts, but I didn't think it was going to be a shootout in a manner of Florida State trying to come back from down big. I thought it would be like 10-14, teams scoring every inning. I didn't think it would be, 13-4 after 5. Or, Florida State losing on a wild pitch 5-4 in extra innings. That's just not how I saw this go. So.
Yeah, no, speaking of things I didn't see going, the Durham Super Regional, if you want to talk about kind of choke jobs, I want to talk about how Duke just absolutely did not come to play with Murray State. Game 1 went in their favor 7-4, but that was pretty much the only highlight of Duke's very tough weekend. Game 2, oh my gosh, 19-9. Murray State dismantles Duke in that 7th inning. That Duke let up 9 runs. You want to know how many pitchers they went through in that inning, Gareth?
Was it Stanford level pitchers?
Not 1, not 2, not 3, but they had 4 pitchers in that inning.
That's less than 1 pitcher per out.
It was just not looking good for the Blue Devils that day. I mean, just absolute humiliation, game 2. But hey, like I said before, you can still lose one. It's all right. It's not the end of the world. Like, things can always go your way. And you some of these games, teams lose big, come back big. But day 3 just wasn't going Duke's way either. Murray State able to start the first inning with 2 runs. Duke able to respond with 1. But with that, Duke had a little stream of success. They were looking pretty good until Murray State was just able to take control back in the 7th and the 2nd inning. Duke was just unable to close at pivotal moments in this series, and that's where Murray State is going to get you. I was watching some breakdowns on my way to the gym today, just to listen to what's going on in the college baseball world, and I heard a really good take. I forgot where it came from, but it's Murray State is not great, but they're good at a lot of things. They're good at the bats, they're good at the pitch, and they can scare a lot of teams. They've taken down the likes of Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, and even Duke. And they're just a team that's not to be messed with right now. And we're going to be getting into our predictions on the brackets momentarily. But one consensus opinion that Gareth and I both have is we do not want to be a team that's facing Murray State in an elimination game. You can get them day 1, all right, it's going to be okay. You can lose 1, you can win 1. It's really going to be okay. But if you're facing Murray State in an elimination game, they're going to bring it to you, man. And it's something that I'm very excited to see, especially with the prospect that Murray State might be able to, if they are in the elimination bracket, they could be taking on the likes of Arkansas or LSU. That's something that I don't want to be seeing if I'm either of those teams. I don't want to be UCLA who's facing them day one. So that's just another super regional that I really wanted to highlight.
And I think the final regional, obviously there's 2 regionals left. There's not much to talk about in the UCLA. 3 more. One other regional I want to touch on is that it had a little more fireworks than I anticipated, was the Miami Louisville regional. I obviously had Louisville winning this. Louisville first day comes out, takes care of business. This was the Louisville we'd seen in the early season. Good bats, good pitching. Now I will say Miami, when they were good on that hot streak this season, it was because they were getting runs batted in. They were getting guys off base. In this first game, Miami left 12 runners on, versus Louisville left 7 on, but had 21 total bases, 3 home runs, 10 hits. Louisville was getting people off the bases. That was the key to game 1. Game 2, Miami kind of bounced back, 9-6 thriller. Miami coming back in a big way. Miami was down 3-1, then they went up, then they were down 3-1, they then went down 4-1, they came back 5-4, went down again 6-5, tied it at 6, then took the lead 9-6. Good played by Miami. Unlike the previous day, Miami was able to get people off the base path. Yes, them and Louisville still had 8 runners left on, but that's out of 22 total bases. So Miami, more often than not, when they got someone on base, was able to bat them in, which that is a recipe for success in baseball. When you leave runners on, that's an issue. That's something, even pro teams right now that are struggling, the Red Sox, for one, they have above average bats. They're good at getting people on base, but they can't get them in. Then 9-6 obviously finished to a rubber match on day 3, in which Louisville eked out a win over Miami. Miami jumped out to the early 2-0 lead. Louisville fired back 2-2. Louisville then scored their third run in the bottom of the 7th. And then from there, they were able to clean it out. Neither team that day was very good at bringing runners in off the base. Both had 10 runners left on out of 2 total bases. So neither team did well, but it was a good, gritty match between the two. Good game. Both teams obviously scraping and scratching, trying to get their way into Omaha. But ultimately, Louisville came out on top on that one, which is nice to see because Louisville's kind of had a suspect bullpen down the stretch. But it's nice to see in those outings that the Louisville bullpen was able to close it down and not revert back to their old ways of, walking 20 batters in a game.
Yeah, and moving on to the final 2 super regionals that we didn't cover. I mean, there's nothing too much to say about these final 2. We had the Los Angeles super regional with UCLA taking on UT San Antonio. This was one that I was really looking forward to, and I was worried with how UCLA would respond. But honestly, UCLA showed some solid play and some grit with them. In game 1, starting off the game, in the first 2 innings, they give up 1 run in the first and 1 run in the second. They're down 2-0 at this point, but UCLA is able to kind of keep their composure and really take control of the game going into the 3rd inning where they tie it up. And then from there, they just kind of maintain and hold pace for a while. In that 8th inning, they're able to get 2 more runs to make the game 5-2. Really solid play by UCLA in game 1, and much to say the same in game 2, where UCLA wins 7-0. UCLA kind of stopped some of the doubts that I had going in to the past weekend. I was a little bit worried with how they might perform. UTSA was really hot, and maybe I was drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. I feel like we all were in this podcast, and not to say that San Antonio is a bad team by any means, but UCLA is starting to show that they're legit. They're legit, and I respect them a lot, and really interested to see how things turn out for them. But LSU just absolutely takes care of business against West Virginia, winning 16-9 in game one and 12-5 in game two. Big bats galore with LSU. LSU really kind of showing that they kind of overcame the Little Rock Blues, as I was calling them, because they just seem to be having trouble with them. And I like LSU's spot going into the tournament right now. I'm really interested to see how it's going to play out, but those two teams, very solid performances, each respectively sweeping their opponents, and that brings us into Omaha now. Gareth, do you want to break down what we think is going to be going down in these brackets? In bracket one, we have Oregon State, Coastal Carolina, Arizona, and Louisville. In bracket two, I think bracket two has got to be the more impressive bracket, in my opinion. We got Arkansas, LSU, UCLA, and Murray State. If I have to dub anything, I think bracket two is going to be basically my equivalent of the group of death, if we're going to be like using World Cup tour terms. In bracket one, I feel like there's a surefire answer, but I could be wrong. But I would like to see what your breakdown is.
For me, bracket one, I'll take it game by game since there's only 8 teams we have to go over, and a loser's bracket here, is not too terrible to deal with. So for me, in the first game, I've got Coastal Carolina taking it over Arizona. I think their hot streak is done. For me, I think they're running out of steam. It took a lot to beat Carolina out of them, so I'm going to go with that. Then from there, game one, red hot Louisville Cardinals are going to take the game against Oklahoma State. That'll give us to start day two. That'll give us Oregon State, excuse me. We've got a date. That means we'll start the day off with the OSU versus Arizona matchup. Former Pac-12 teammate or Pac-12 members, and that I think Oregon State gets their revenge on Arizona for abandoning the Pac-12. Oregon State takes the dub in that, knocking out Arizona. Then from there, we're going to have Coastal Carolina versus Louisville. I've got Louisville dropping this one to Coastal. That gives us a game the next day between Oregon State and Louisville. I've got Oregon State winning that one against, and then they'll play Coastal Carolina for the Group 1 final, in which I think Oregon State will win game one, and then from there, Coastal Carolina will win, avoiding elimination in that elimination rubber match, giving Coastal Carolina the victory in Group 1 for me. What's your Group 1 looking like?
I want to say interesting blueberry fact. May I start off with a blueberry fact? I have a very interesting blueberry fact. Okay, so this year we have 3 former Pac-12 teams in Omaha. We have UCLA, Arizona, and Oregon State all in Omaha. Last time, and they're not in the Pac-12 now, but last time the Pac-12 got 3 or 4 teams in Omaha was 1988. So technically speaking, if this happened a year or two ago, this would be the best year of Pac-12 baseball. But now the Pac-12's dissolved. So I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting blueberry fact. Pac-12 still winning, even though the Pac-12 is dead, but the Pac-12 is also being revived a little bit. More on that later. But
I thought you were going to say something else, that a certain team won the last time 3 Pac-12 teams were in it. I was like, oh shit. No, you'll see what I mean in a second.
Yeah. But starting off with game one, we got Coastal Carolina going up against Arizona. I think Coastal Carolina's red hot. Got Coastal Carolina winning that one. Oregon State versus Louisville. I think I got Oregon State winning that one. That would make Arizona and Louisville going into the elimination bracket. Give me Arizona winning that one. I'm not too high on Louisville right now, and I think Arizona has a lot going for them, especially like coming off the Chapel Hill Regional. I don't think they're going to keep their streak continuing, but I do see them winning, getting another one in on the ACC teams. So that would also mean Coastal Carolina going up against Oregon State. I'll have Oregon State winning that one. That would make Coastal Carolina going up against Arizona again. I think Coastal Carolina takes care of business once again, and we got Coastal Carolina versus Oregon State. I have Coastal Carolina winning those last two games and moving on to the championship. I think Coastal Carolina is hot, but I really don't I don't want to undersell how good Oregon State is, and I think it's a very they're a very strong baseball team, but I just feel like it's Coastal Carolinas in this division.
Yeah, I agree. They've for being a Group of 5 team, they've got a very solid baseball program, arguably worthy of Power 5 considerations in certain years for me.
Yo,
So
I'm feeling bad for Troy missing the tournament. Feeling like they got snubbed. If we're seeing how powerful the Sun Belt is right now, we got to be putting the respect on Sun Belt baseball's name right now.
yeah, and I feel like the Sun Belt and even the Big West at times deserves Power Conference consideration, because if you look at it success-wise, the Big West and the Big West and Big Ten have the same amount of national championships. You know who has the same amount of Omaha appearances in the last 5 years, even 10 years? The Sun Belt and the Big Ten.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, I know the Big Ten's got 5 more national titles than them, but let's be honest. The Sun Belt didn't exist when the Big Ten had 80% of their national titles. So I think that's an unfair comparison.
Very unfair.
Moving on.
Do you want to... On to bracket 2. We got starting off. We got UCLA versus Murray State. UCLA is pretty hot. I got UCLA winning this one, putting Murray State in the elimination bracket. And then after that, we have Arkansas versus LSU. This is going to be a very interesting game. I know. I mean, I feel like I'm split between a team that's just absolutely red hot off the bats versus a slowly consistent team like Arkansas. So I have Arkansas winning this one, and that puts UCLA versus Arkansas going into day 2. I got Arkansas winning that one. And in the elimination bracket, we would have Murray State versus LSU. Listen, I know Gareth is going to be saying this, but I made a little bit of an analogy. With Murray State, when Murray State is down, is like this crappy T-shirt I've seen on the internet. Sometimes you got to fight like you're the third monkey trying to get onto Noah's Ark, and brother, it's starting to rain. That's Murray State.
That is.
I would hate to be an LSU getting off a 15 inning into 2 a.m. matchup against Arkansas, just losing it in a pitcher's duel, or just an absolute bat fest, with hits galore, going up against Murray State with
at 9 o'clock the next morning.
At 9 o'clock in the next morning, they got nothing to lose at that point, and they're just like, brother, let's bring it on. I'm sorry, I got Murray State winning.
Raining.
brother, it's raining. I got Murray State winning that one, and then so with that, I would have Murray State going up against UCLA. Man, screw it. Something about a one-loss Murray State team is a mythical college baseball team. There's things that, in the UFC, if you're a UFC fan, there's something the fans call a mythical fighter, which is like a fighter under like certain circumstances that make no sense. And if you describe it, it's just kind of weird. But if you're there, you know. Like Anderson Silva on PEDs is a mythical fighter. Conor McGregor locked in is a mythical fighter. Like these are like fighters that have like an absolute like aura about them. I'm sorry, Murray State with one loss has aura for me. I think I had them losing against UCLA game one just because I wanted to see them have one loss, just because I wanted to see the chaos that it would ensue. But I got Murray State winning up against UCLA in the elimination bracket, and that would make Arkansas versus Murray State in the championship game for this bracket. Give me Arkansas on this one. I'm sorry. The Murray State run kind of ends with this. I mean, I don't think there's any getting past Arkansas. I would love to see a Coastal Carolina Murray State championship. That would feed generations, in my opinion. Horrible for ratings, but like I would see to it that every TV in America has this series on. I will call the president and say, hey, sign a executive order that every TV must play Murray State versus Coastal Carolina in the College World Series, but I don't see that happening. I got my Omaha World Series being Arkansas versus Coastal Carolina. Murray State's mythical run comes to an end, and that's just how it goes, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as much as you like to joke about certain of those scenarios, that some of those scenarios may actually be my prediction. So,
I think they're all.
One, UCLA. I'm calling it. UCLA is going to drop an absolute dookie on Murray State this first game. I'm talking it's going to be ugly. It's going to be straight up disrespectful. It's going to be another one of those like 20-2 type shits. Give me UCLA in that game. Then obviously, as much as Aiden likes to joke about that, I actually talked about this. We talked about this, like, he mentioned post or pre-podcast. With how the SEC's been, just how competitive Arkansas is. Give me Arkansas in 15 innings. Then the mythical matchup.
Brother, it's starting to rain.
Let me just say, you've got a team that's just been absolutely demoralized by Arkansas's pitching. And you've got a Murray State team who, when they've been disrespected in the previous game, they will drop 20 runs on your head. And I'm talking, for those of you who remember that Dallas Baptist versus Oklahoma State game, where, like, because it's an elimination game, there is no run rule. Do with that information what you will. But I've got Murray State winning that elimination game. Then obviously I've got UCLA versus Arkansas. Not going to lie. UCLA, when playing actually good teams, not a very good baseball team. UCLA, when playing mid-major teams that are hit or miss. UCLA, when playing actual Power 5 competition. So, give me Arkansas. Then I've got Murray State versus UCLA. You know what? Murray State gives one final fuck you to UCLA. Give me Murray State in extras. And then, of course, we've got Murray State versus Arkansas. And I can see it now, folks. We see it every year. Or not every year, but we see it every once in a while where it's like that team, we see it in any sport. We see it in March Madness. It's that one lower seed. They finally run out of gas. They got to put, the 17-year-old freshman pitcher in who throws 65 miles an hour, when he's all amped. Like, I'm talking like 65 miles. Oh, shit, that hurt. I'm talking he throws 65 miles an hour when he's all amped up, on his pre-workout and Zinnichinos. Like, I'm talking everything goes perfectly and he still only throws 62 miles an hour. Like, I'm talking that's the type of brother that's going to be on the mound for this game. Give me Arkansas in a big way in this game.
Literally my predictions, but I couldn't word it better.
Yeah, so give me Arkansas on that one. I've got Arkansas and Coastal Carolina.
If I disagreed with you on a single one of those, like before, Like, I don't, but if I did, I would be convinced. You would have convinced me. If I wasn't sold already, I'm sold now. I might even gamble on this now because Gareth just told me, like, he just looked into the future and he was like, Aiden, let me bless you with the knowledge of the future. And I was like, okay, Gareth, tell me the future. And he just did.
Now that I've said this, this is not going to happen. Any other year, this would fucking happen. Like, I'm talking because I've said this now. Fucking Murray State's going to win this shit. And Coastal's going to get absolutely fucking swept because I've said this now. But,
Murray,
you know.
what do we do if Murray State just, like, wins every game?
We buy Murray State baseball hats.
Bro, we're buying Murray State. If they win, like, three, like, just UCLA, win. Like, then, like, Arkansas, win. And then elimination game, they, like, whoever they play in the elimination game, win. And then sweep whoever, like, they play in the championship. You know what? We're buying Murray State merch.
Indubitably. So that's our breakdown of the College World Series. Unfortunately, oh damn, that's bad. Unfortunately, neither of our teams can make Omaha this year. But hey, NC State and Carolina can't constantly dominate college baseball. We can't go to Omaha too often because apparently, the SEC teams are already upset that one ACC team made it. I've seen people making TikToks. They didn't deserve to make it. Okay. What happened to your one seed? What happened to your one seed? Who did your one seed lose to? Oh, yeah, the most inconsistent team in the ACC. And then they fucking lost to Wright State, who they should have lost to in the first place. That homer was foul. I never got to comment on that. But in that Wright State game, that walk-off homer was foul. And it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So that's all I'll say. I'm sure we'll have more of a breakdown next week. But shall we proceed to either UFC, NHL, or NBA?
Alrighty, and we are back with Tobacco Road and Abroad. Had to take a quick little break there. We are going to finish off this episode with a quick lightning round. We are going to go through all the aspects of sports that we are finding interesting storylines and giving quick updates on some major events that have conspired over the past week. The NHL playoffs, Stanley Cup is coming in at full head right now. We have the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers in a series with Florida leading 2-1. Oilers were able to take game one in overtime, 4-3. And the Panthers have shown some dominance over these past two games, winning game two 5-4 in second overtime and winning 6-1 recently in game three. I really like the dominance that the Panthers have been showing. Sam Reinhart has proven to be a very valued center for the Florida Panthers. And Sergei Bobrovsky, his show out in game three was really, really good, coming out with 32 saves and a 97% save average. And this is the type of Florida team that we saw against the Hurricanes, and I see them keeping this trend going throughout the playoffs. I do see Edmonton showing some fight. The closeness of the first two games is something that I found really interesting. That game two going into two overtimes was really, really interesting with Edmonton coming out hot early, and then Florida being able to take the lead at 4-3, with Edmonton being able to tie it up in the third period in the clutch, but just unable to capitalize with Florida continuing their winning ways. I feel like these overtime games have been very taxing for Edmonton, especially considering the playoff run that they have been going on. I think we're going to be seeing the trend of Edmonton slowing down to be something that's uh, going to be happening over these next couple of days. Ice got still have Florida winning this series. Moving over to the NBA Finals, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers tied at 1 game apiece. Game one, that was an absolutely amazing game to watch. We had Tim Halliburton leading the Pacers from behind, being able to hit that clutch game winner in the final seconds of the game. Halliburton, when he's on and he's hitting, he can lead the Pacers and win in scary ways. I was telling Gareth like Pacers have like some black magic going on for them, and like they have just some voodoo going on, and no lead is safe for Oklahoma City, and with Halliburton's shooting, you can't count the Pacers out of this series. But game two, Thunder came back big, and they kind of learned from the mistakes of the past game, where they were like, okay, keep Halliburton at bay, keeping him only to 17 points, where SGA was able to pop off and score 34 points for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Thunder win big, 123 to 107. Like I said before, this series is the Thunder's to lose. I feel like they're overall fundamentally one of the most solid teams that we've seen in a while. Have depth for ages and can really just score at will. But you can't count the Pacers out of this series. I'm excited to see how Game 3 is going to go down. This series is getting interesting, and never count the Pacers out. Going into this past weekend, we had a really big card with UFC 316. Very interesting pay-per-view card. We had some interesting wins, some predictions I got right, some predictions that I got wrong. One of them that I got right was Kevin Holland getting a win against Vicente Luque. Kevin Holland getting one of his better performances in the octagon as of late. He was able to kind of lock in, able to get a second round submission. I really like seeing Kevin Holland win. I could see he was very motivated in the octagon, and if he's able to keep this energy up, I would like to see him in any weight class. I know there's talks of like being in 170, 155, like the world is Kevin Holland's oyster, and I really like seeing him as a gatekeeper. And I think he's a good mediator for like new talent for the UFC, and his consistency. Like he's already had 3 fights this year so far, and I don't see him slowing down, especially with his improvement in the grappling game. Getting a win by submission, I found that to be pretty impressive and a good win for Kevin Holland. So after that, we had Mario Batista versus Patty Mix. Patty Mix going into his UFC debut. Batista was able to win by unanimous decision. Consensus is this was a pretty poor fight. It was honestly kind of boring. Like overall, Batista was able to outstrike and kind of like keep Patchy at bay, but overall, not a fight that I necessarily like found much enjoyment out of. But going on into other fights, we had Kevin Gastelum versus Joe Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer was able to beat Gastelum by unanimous decision. Once again, the critics are saying this was just kind of a boring fight by unanimous decision. No real standout moments that really stood out to me. Just overall, fight grade at a D+. just not one of the better fights this year. It felt like Pfeiffer was kind of just like playing a little bit, uh, just not necessarily anything to write home about. But going in to the championship fights of this card, we had Juliana Pena going up against Kyla Harrison. Kyla Harrison able to just absolutely dominate against Pena, winning by second round submission. She was at her most dominant, being able to keep Pena at bay. Like Pena was just on her, like just kind of taking it from Harrison, being able to hang on, just wanted to bring up my notes. Pena was just kind of on her back feet. Looked like Harrison was just ready to go out of the gate and able to bring Pena down with her judo and really kind of out grapple Pena, which I was kind of surprised to see because Pena is really good at like defending against submissions, but Harrison was able to get one in the second round, and Harrison gets a dominant win. This brings us to our main event of the night. We had Merab going up against Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley just did not look that good in this fight. Merab was able to win by a third round submission. This was just a absolutely relentless attack by Merab. He was able to keep O'Malley just out at bay, and O'Malley just looked kind of slow going into this fight. I know there was a lot of hype going in, like especially among O'Malley fans. This was a whole meme. Oh, O'Malley's going to be on his basically his winter arc. He's going to be no gooning, no weed. He's on his anime arc. He's the protagonist, and he's gonna like take over. O'Malley Reign too. I didn't really see that. O'Malley, like I like him a lot. I just don't think 135 is a division for him. I really think that he should probably think about maybe going up a weight class or something like that because he's just looked slow in this one. I know he has the benefit of being like pretty light for his height, but I think he really needs to consider maybe going up another division because there might be something about like the weight cuts or something like that, but he's just not looking good as of late. But you got to say, like, his only losses have been coming to Merab, and Merab is a really solid bantamweight, and like I'm very excited to see how he continues fighting in this division. But overall, UFC 316 was overall by the critics have been said to be a pretty okay fight card. I thought there were some pretty good highlight moments. Anytime Kevin Holland wins, I take that as a win. And we got to see a pretty good performance out of Merab and Harrison. So I say overall, with the fights, we kind of got 3 hits out of 5 potential hits. So I say a pretty solid pay-per-view card. Maybe not going to be anyone's favorite at the end of the year, but a decent card is a decent card, and I'm looking forward to see these next couple of cards. We have Ilya Tapora going up against Charles Oliveira next, and International Fight Week, and we also have on the horizon a Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway card. So I say the summer's still looking pretty stacked for the UFC, and I'm excited to see where it goes. In interesting news, it's not looking good for the heavyweight division. We're seeing John Jones like basically talking on social media like he's already retired, even though he has not vacated the belt. UFC is not looking good right now when it comes to handling the Jones versus Aspinall decision, because Dana White was very adamant that Aspinall versus Jones was confirmed. Fight is still not confirmed, and John Jones has the belt and is kind of holding out, and just not a good look. Heavyweight is just not a division to be in right now, especially with everything just clogged up right now. John Jones needs to decide whether he's going to stay in the game or retire. If he retires, good for him. Let the belt move on. You had a good run. His heavyweight run has been 700, 800 days. Only 2 fights to his name. One of them being the first one against Cyril Gane, and the other one against Stipe. Just not anything to write home about, but John Jones has proven a lot in the light heavyweight division, so nobody should be sad if he retires. I'm just, as a fan, disappointed that he's kind of holding up the division in what should be a marquee division for the UFC. Heavyweight should be one of those divisions that everybody is looking at and having their eyes on. But right now, it's kind of the UFC's dark spot right now. It's just something that is bloated, not moving along, and we don't have any really good, interesting fights coming out of it, especially considering the fact that we have a really good talent in Tom Aspinall, who's only an interim champion right now. I really want to see him with a legitimate belt, because just this Jones situation is not hitting. But that kind of sums up my MMA analysis. I do want to say U.S. Open is this weekend at Oakmont Country Club in Pennsylvania. I'm really excited for this weekend of golf. Any major golf is good golf, in my opinion. Bryson DeChambeau is the reigning U.S. Open champion, and I would really like to see him have a really solid performance. We have some other interesting people. I want to say Roy McIlroy, still coming off a master win earlier this week. Earlier this year. Like to see how he performs. Other notable names, Xander Schauffele. He's going to be teeing off with Bryson DeChambeau at 7:30 on Thursday. That should be a guy to keep your eyes on. And Brooks Koepka teeing off at 1 o'clock with Russell Henley and Justin Thomas, two names that are pretty big in American golf. And let's see. I might be forgetting other people that. Justin Rose is going to be teeing off with more Roy McIlroy, so that should be fun. Let's see. There's a lot of different names. U.S. Open's always fun, in my opinion, because open golf, whether it's U.S. Open or the British Open, or the Open as it's called, it's where you get a good combination of pro and amateur golfers. And the amateur storylines are always the fun ones, in my opinion. You got a lot of interesting people that you might not know a lot about, but it only takes a couple good rounds of golf where nobody becomes into a somebody, and you see all these feel-good stories. So I really can't wait to recap that at the end of the weekend, and doing our recaps next week. But yeah, U.S. Open this weekend. I'm really excited for it. Gareth, do you have any soccer you want to bring it on home with?
Yeah, so aside for the fucking embarrassment that was tonight, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. A lot of our star players, decided they wanted a vacation before the World Cup, even though there's not much meaningful soccer left. So all of our stars have decided to vacate the one meaningful tournament we have between now and then, and which means we had a little mini training camp, and the two friendlies didn't go well. 2-1 loss to Turkey 2 days ago. Team looked good, but same old tonight. Defense was abominable. Walker Zimmerman, we cannot have him back there anymore. Our right back's not even a professional player. He's a semi-professional player who I don't even think was 16 years old. It was just kind of, I don't want to call it a pitiful effort because that's kind of a disrespect to the squad we put out there. They went out there, they tried their hardest, but I will say when we're playing teams like Switzerland and Turkey, you can't put guys out there who basically don't have driver's licenses and expect it to go well against some of Europe's best teams. Like, it was a mix of essentially MLS bots and guys that don't even know how to shave yet. And I will say, the young guys, some of the young guys did impress. They did look really good, but when we've got forwards out there who are the same age as my little sister, like, what are we gonna do? Like, the ball was getting into the places where it needed to be tonight. It was getting into the box, but then again, you've got 16, 17-year-old making their first international start against a team like Switzerland, who really solid, top 20 in the world. They're getting the ball in the box wide open. 17-year-old dude, what's he going to do? His adrenaline's going to be up. It's going to go over the bar. That's what's going to happen. These are people, and this isn't like our normal 17-year-olds who we have in the rotation. Like, who's like, the hype's been around them. They've been around the block. These are 17-year-olds who haven't even gotten looks yet because our big guys have decided they want time off. Like, these are guys who haven't even started. We can't blame them for that,
Yeah.
When people want Pochettino to be fired, the system's working. The problem is that the big players just aren't buying into it. So, with that being said, our last meaningful tournament for soccer right before the World Cup takes place. And the squad's not exactly impressive. It's a bunch, like I said, a bunch of MLS bots and youngins. So we'll see how that goes. But I'll go over my quick predictions for the groups, let you know. So Group A, we have Mexico, Costa Rica, Suriname, and Dominican Republic. I got Mexico winning that group and Costa Rica coming out as the second seed, making it to the knockout round. Group B, Canada, Honduras, El Salvador, Curacao. Canada got who I wanted for a soccer head coach in Jesse Marsh, but Canada is looking unstoppable right now. I know they just lost the Ivory Coast tonight in a friendly, but Jesse Marsh is doing a lot with a little up there in Canada, despite Canada's federation about to file for bankruptcy. But Jesse Marsh is still finding a way to get it done. Group C, we've got Panama, Jamaica, Guatemala, and Guadeloupe. For those who don't know, Guadeloupe's a small French colony. They're likely going to lose first round. But I've got Panama and Jamaica coming out of that. And then the U.S.'s group, which is the United States. I can't read what I wrote there. It's United States, Trinidad, and Saudi Arabia. Oh, that might be Cuba. Sorry. That might be Cuba. Let me check real quick. That's Haiti. My bad. Don't ask me how I thought Haiti said Cuba, but I thought. So out of that group, I've got the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a really solid team. About 10 years ago, if I told you that the U.S. would be playing Saudi Arabia, like, oh, that's a pretty win. No, Saudi Arabia has done a lot to build up their soccer program, and they are a formidable foe. I have the U.S. coming out of that group with Saudi Arabia. Now, how the knockout stage is going to go, I don't know. I'm a little worried from what I've seen with, our best players sitting this one out. I know they need breaks. But at this point, and I know they need breaks, and they're going to get worn down if we don't let them take breaks. But my issue is our new coach, who is supposed to be a world-class guy, has not had our starting lineup altogether, despite having almost a year of training camps with them due to injuries and people deciding to take personal sabbaticals off from soccer. We cannot get a World Cup caliber team together if they are not together in training camps throughout the year. Yes, Pulisic needs time off. Yes, Reina needs time off. Yes, Adams needs time off. Yes, Anthony Robinson needs time off. But there is no time to take off. The World Cup's less than a year away, and we have not had our A squad play together once since getting a new coach. This next World Cup cycle is going to be a shit show if we cannot get our act together. Yes, these guys need time off, but now is not the time. There is a time and a place. Take time off during the World Cup. Skip the next Gold Cup. But this is our last bit of meaningful soccer before the World Cup. We can schedule as many friendlies as we want, but other teams don't take those seriously. This is the last bit of meaningful, stressful soccer they can play. We needed to have done something with it, and they didn't. Yes, The U.S. can still win the Gold Cup, and that's fine and dandy. But because we don't have our A team out there, they're not getting the experience they need of playing together and building that roster and playing with that style of play. Yes, I will be happy and overjoyed if this group of teenagers and, this island of misfit toys. We're not even playing with our B and C squad. This is the D or F squad, the D, E, or F squad. And that's no disrespect to them. But this is a bunch of teenagers and MLS randos. If the island of misfit toys somehow wins, great. But like I said, the A team needs time together, and they're not getting that. So this is going to be essentially a waste. Sorry, waste isn't the right word. This is going to be a waste of preparation. Yes, it's going to be nice to see where the distant future is with these 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds playing. That's going to be nice to see. But we need to be worried about the World Cup we're hosting next year at this time. Not what these guys are going to look like in a decade. These guys will keep developing. They're going to do their job. They're playing in the academies. They're working hard. They've got good. From what I saw tonight, outside of the back line was the issue. Walker Zimmerman cannot be out there. Matt Turner, we need to get rid of Matt Turner. Matt Turner's time with the U.S. national team needs to be done. He served his purpose in 2022, but he cannot keep spilling balls like that back out into the box with the World Cup next year. That cannot be happening. He either needs to get that cleaned up. He needs to find his way into playing meaningful soccer. Yes, I know I've been a proponent of getting our guys to play overseas. That is a big thing for me. But if Matt Turner's, goalkeepers, the thing is, you can't really sharpen your skills if you're not playing. That is the one position where I'll be okay if we have an MLS goalkeeper or if we have a non-European league goalkeeper. For goalkeepers, a goalkeeper is a goalkeeper anywhere. Tim Howard was the best goalkeeper in U.S. history, and he played most of his career in the MLS after he had a few short stints in the Premier League. Was phenomenal. Goalkeeper is a goalkeeper no matter what league you're in. You're getting experience. The other positions are not what I'm going to compromise on. Center back Walker Zimmerman, that was just god-awful. Don't ever put him back there again, please. He cost us in the 2022 World Cup. He cost us a win against Wales, and we ended up tying, and he cost us the game against Belgium. We're not doing that. He cost us the game against the Netherlands. We're not doing that again. Right back being, only a semi-pro, that's a product of who we have available. Our left back being practically a guy my sister's age, that's a product of who we have available. We're going to have to figure this out. But those young guys who played up front, good head on their shoulders, they were making good decisions. It was just lights were too bright. You can't throw a bunch of teenagers out there against a team like Switzerland and expect it to go well. And I'm not saying this is on Poch. This is also on the players that took time off. Pochettino did what he could do did the best he could with the roster he was given for this, with the amount of players we have hurt and opting out. So that's all I'll say. Hopefully the island of misfit toys can find a way to get it done in the Gold Cup, but that does nothing for our World Cup efforts next year. So I think that'll do it for us here at Tobacco Road and Abroad. This episode's running a little long. We, took time to catch up, plan the episode, so it's a little late. So we will talk to you guys next week, where we should have, a breakdown of, the U.S. Open, breakdown of the opening round of the Gold Cup, and then some review of the College World Series. So thank you guys for listening in. We'll see you next week.